years without this community. And a special shout out to all the caregivers and weekly visitors who kept us going through these past 3 years. You guys know who you are, and thank you. So, I'm Piper. I'm Bill's daughter, in case you didn't know, and here's what I have to say. There's Kleenex on the tables if you need. My dad meant a lot of things to a lot of people, but I'm pretty sure that I'm the only one in this world who can call him Dad. And for this, I will be forever grateful and honored, because just like my dad was a wonderful human, he was also a really damn good dad. In pondering what made my dad so exemplary in this role, I decided it was not only because he signed up for fatherhood, he also showed up, like 110%. He even showed up at times when it might have been okay for him not to show up. Like when he sat right next to me in the movie theater on my first date with Jared Boca Chica. My dad was the only male on the Parent Teachers Association at my elementary school. These days that might not be so rare, but when I was young, that was something. He was the kind of dad who, when I said he would make a great ghost for the Halloween fair, he proceeded to build a wooden coffin and dress up like a ghost and lay in that box all night spooking small children. He built me a dollhouse when I was a little girl, a playhouse when I was a small child. We built a bunkhouse together when I was an adolescent, a cedar strip kayak together when I was a teenager, a yurt when I was a young adult, a sauna when I got married, and he built a masterpiece of a high chair when I had a baby. And the best part about all these projects was that my dad embarked upon them simply because it meant we could spend more time together. I started the bunkhouse and he finished it. We built the cedar strip kayak together, and he dedicated multiple days a week for a year in my high school shop class, helping build, sand, and fiberglass the boat with me, while chaperoning the class to make it even feasible as a high school course. He drove a skiff for hours over rugged Alaskan waters to deliver building materials to me in my remote yurt site in Gustavus, Alaska. And one day I think he drove back and forth between Bozeman and Livingston 3 times to gather sauna supplies. Together, we weren't always the most organized or thought-out duo, but with my dad on board, the projects always got done, and we had a hell of a lot of laughs and bonding in the process. The projects weren't all, of course. There were the rainy day Monopoly games, endless hours playing fast-pitch softball or volleyball in the driveway, driving the 1935 Plymouth Coupe around the block, and because the car didn't have brakes, my dad would slow to a rolling speed and have me jump out and chock the tires with a piece of wood when we needed to stop. There was our road trip down to the lower 48 from Alaska, when I moved to Montana actually, where I drove the stereo as hard as I drove the car, and we popped every single tire one at a time in backwoods towns along the Cassiar Highway, and slept in a 1.5-person tent together for a week. I even spent 6.5 months as a 16-year-old traveling around the world with my parents, where we were literally together 24/7, and I liked it. Yeah. When my dad died, some of you might remember this outfit. When my dad died, a friend wrote to me and said, "Bill Platte was a prince among men." She couldn't have said it better. My dad embodied the definition of what it means to be a man in the best sense of the word. He could rewire and plumb a house single-handedly and then show up dressed as a woman for Halloween the next. He could muck out an outhouse in Waders one month and be invited and attend a presidential inauguration the next. He could bake bread and cookies in the morning and wield a chainsaw like a beast in the afternoon. He could swim naked in the Alaska Ocean, hollering like a crazed sea lion, and then sit properly at a Pentagon tea with the Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney. He could dance like everyone was watching and still not give a shit. And lastly, he demonstrated that real men can and do wear short bathing suits, shorts, over long underwear, even on ski trips. My dad could and did span the spectrum of masculinity, and he owned every aspect of it. Everyone was drawn to my dad for a smile and mouth-gaping laughter that didn't pause for anything, including a mouthful of food. But like all of us, my dad also had a bit of a dark side. He could retreat into his garage or projects for days on end in quietness that hinted of depression. I consider his stroke years to be a dark side, but in all darkness, there must also have a gleam of light in order for us not to fully succumb to the dark. And the light in my dad's stroke was the opportunity for the tables to turn and for me to show up for him. Caring for my dad these past 3 years was the most difficult and best gift life has bestowed upon me. Had I not had this time with him, I wouldn't have known that he once spent a night in jail, or that I'm his favorite daughter because you can never be too sure if there might be more, or how important his high school friendships and high school years were to him, or learned about all the trouble he initiated with his buddies. I wouldn't have fully appreciated his sense of humor, gentle spirit, and easy laugh. And most importantly, I wouldn't have been able to realize the depth of our special father-daughter bond. My dad died knowing truly and deeply how much he meant to me and vice versa. Because of his stroke years, I have no regrets, and that is a gift. One of the last things my dad said to me was, "Don't miss me." But damn it, Dad, I can't do that. I will miss you for the rest of my life, but I'm ever grateful that I had 43 wonderful years with you as my dad, my friend, my number one fan, and my hero. My biggest sadness is that my daughter Scout doesn't get to experience you as her grandfather because that's a role my dad had trained for his whole life. He was going to ace it. But I'm reassured that my dad's spirit lives on in Scout, and her love for swimming and water, her wholehearted laughter, and fun-loving, yet slightly mischievous spirit. I could be up here for days telling stories and reminiscing about my dad and his varied and incredible life, and how he affected and shaped me. But I think we only have this place till 5, so. In conclusion, my dad taught me many things like dads do. He taught me all the tangible skills, like driving stick shift and spinning donuts on black ice and learning how to gracefully correct and pull out of it. He taught me how to use a skill saw and a chainsaw, and he taught me never to leave a sharp knife in soapy water because it will inevitably cut someone. But my dad also taught me intangible things along the way, things I'm sure he wasn't even aware he was setting out to teach. And if there's any one significant nugget of meaning I gleaned from my 43 years with my dad, it's this. Show up for the things you've signed up for in life, and show up like it's a privilege and not an obligation. Thank you, Dad, for doing that for me 110%.